Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode number 36 now of the Coders Startup Podcast. Thank you, first of all, and welcome to this episode. And I want to obviously introduce, did we do an episode last week together, Carter? I forget now.
Yeah, man. It was an awesome episode, too.
We talked about
a ton of fun.
We did. That's right. Of course, we had a great episode last week. The reason why I asked was I was on my walk this morning with the puppy, and I was listening to some podcasts, and I came across the fact, because it's Thursday right now, so my phone automatically downloaded the Coder Startup, which I think was episode 35 or 34 that was just released today.
Okay.
Neither here nor there, but I saw that it came live, and I started listening to it a bit because I always like to listen to the first little bit, make sure it sounds okay, and so on and so forth. But I heard that I was talking about you being in the hospital with your knee issue. So I assumed, I was like, oh crap, did we talk about that last week? Do I even know what happened with your knee issue? And do we do all that updating stuff to see how you're doing?
Yeah. So that was so we're on track. We're good. No, we didn't talk about the update of that, but knee's getting a lot better. Still limping a little bit, but we're good. We're good.
Okay. And did you ever get the results of because I was talking about, you had said you're getting an x-ray and all that stuff. Have you gotten the results back? Is it everything's...
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not even going to attempt to explain what the doctors explained. Something about you have these lubricating sacs in between your knee joints, and one of those got busted. And so it actually takes longer to heal than a lot of tears and stuff. So that's the downside, but the good side is I don't think I'm going to have surgery.
Okay, so that's the main thing. All right, that's good. Just a Carter health update for you guys and girls. So, all right, let's jump right into today's episode. We were sort of going back and forth on different topics and subjects. We almost started talking about taxes and tax laws today, but I think we're going to push that back until who knows when. But I guess we weren't really fully prepared for it. But instead, we sort of we called an audible, and we came up with, that was a little football thing there, came up with the topic of customer service, because I've had a couple of customer service interactions of late, both good and bad, and I wanted to sort of shed some light on that, and plus my own experiences as a business owner, and I'm sure Carter has plenty that he can talk about with respect to his customer service stuff that he knows. So how do you want to roll things out? How do you want to start this conversation?
I don't know. I'm really glad we're talking about this today, though, because I feel like it's been a hot topic for us both. If you think about some of the discussions in our mastermind, it's been around this concept a lot for me. So let's just jump into it. Let's start off talking about what do you do to ensure good customer service, Trevor?
Yeah, there we go. There's the lead-in question. So my number one thing, and it's both good and bad, good in terms of customer service, bad in terms of, scalability, or I guess not really scalability. I like to answer emails right when they come in. I do it to a fault because, like I said, I'll be up at 2:00 in the morning, not able to sleep. I'll have the monkey's brain and sitting in front of the TV trying to relax and fall asleep. And I'll get an email and I'll reply to it at 2 a.m. And a lot of times, a lot of my customers are from the States. So, if it's 2 a.m. and they just happen to be up and working and they're emailing me and then I respond, they know I'm not, overseas. They know I'm in Canada on the East Coast. So they say, holy cow, what are you doing? Replying to this email at 2 a.m. I've had that response from them before. So, that makes an impact when, not necessarily that you can get a reply at 2 a.m., but that it's a quick reply, a quick turnaround. And, and that's something I pride myself on it now. I love to get back to them ASAP, and I'm sure they love it too. So, but the downside of that is, it's really tough to set boundaries. And this is something that I know Carter was struggling with this past weekend. So I guess you can tell your story about that, and the downside of, responding to your customers ASAP and what that does to your sort of psyche. So, you know what story I'm talking about?
Well, totally. And I'll share all the details and everything. Sure. But what I was going to say is, I've studied a lot of the metrics that people really say that just creates an awesome customer service experience. And I think the leading metric, the last like study that I went over, it was response time, not actually like solution based, but like just verifying, hey, we got your message, somebody's going to look over everything and get back to you as soon as possible. And I know there's a lot of tools when they're automated in that sense. And anytime I fill out something and it's kind of automated like that, I'm like, whatever. But I've seen a couple of companies do it really well where they actually delay that. So it's like a 5-10 minute delay. And then they say, hey, I'm Paul. I'm going to be reviewing everything. I'll get back to you with an answer in the next 24 or 48 hours. And I really, really like that touch. And that's something that you could automate if you really wanted to. I think right now you're good, because we talked a lot about it in the mastermind group, that you're good with what you're doing. But if you ever needed to. The other thing I was going to say is there's so many companies out there that specifically offer some sort of customer service response. So like when I ran the moving company, we actually had a company 24/7 that our telephone number was routed to. They would answer on the first call. They would take down the customer's notes, explain to them, hey, we're going to get back to them. We'd get the whole transcript, either text message or email. It was great. It was a great, great system. So there's a lot of different solutions for small business owners, for startups, that are super feasible to implement and really, really great in terms of the ROI that they can provide. So I would definitely suggest looking into those. Looking over my notes here.
And I know, I'll just jump in real quick. I know there's one product I've used before that helps with, so you have the area of, responding to your customers, but another thing that can happen if you start to grow big and get a lot of customer interactions, email is not a good solution. And I know I've used something called Rhino Support in the past. You obviously don't use this one. I haven't used them recently. I used them for a product I used to have that I've now sort of closed down. But Rhino Support was actually quite good. It was just like it's a customer relationship management type thing. And it allows you to embed like a live chat widget on your site. And if you're not live with a chat widget, then you can, it allows you to then your users to send you an email, and then that gets tracked within the Rhino Support system. And you can see what sort of tickets are open and closed, very basic sort of functionality there. If you've ever worked in any sort of corporation before, they'll have some sort of a ticketing system like that. And there's a reason why you're probably already familiar with using one of those, is because they work, right? All the corporations use them. There's a reason they use them. So once it hits a certain point, for me in my business, I'm way behind. I need to start adopting that thing. And that is something that's on my radar right in front of me in a sticky note to implement something like that. I specifically have implement Rhino Support or equivalent on all product websites. It's a sticky that's staring me in the face. So that's how much I believe in it. And that's how much you should really start to adopt as early as possible these kinds of solutions. So
yeah. And Zendesk, I was going to mention Zendesk is another great solution like Rhino Support that I've had really good experience with. The other thing, if you are using email, one thing that I did, and this was back before Rhino Support Zendesk was around, but whenever we had emails come in, we would actually use like tags within Gmail or whatever and mark processed. And that way, if someone else on your team or like your VA or someone has read it, it doesn't slip through the cracks. Like you implement that rule, that when it's taken care of, you'll mark it processed. Anything else you need to follow up with, keep touching base with the customer, make sure things are resolved. So that's just a little tidbit hack that you can implement if you are using email to manage your customer service support.
Well, specifically you said Gmail, right?
Yeah, Gmail. Gmail. You could probably, take that concept, apply it to your other email providers, whether it's putting them all in an Excel sheet as they come in and just looking at it that way or whatever.
I hate that.
Don't on that. Just, do a Zendesk or Rhino Support. I think Zendesk is like $1 a month. So
is it really $1 a month?
Yeah, I think it's super. You're not going to get the top-notch stuff in terms of all their bells and whistles, but I think their basic support, like one agent and everything, is like $1 or $2 a month.
All right, I'm going to verify that right now because that's of interest to me.
Okay, well, while you're verifying that, I'll jump into the story you were talking about and kind of the difficulties I have with customer service, customer support. Um, First off, a little background. I have always, come from the side of the argument where the customer is always right. You should bend over backwards. I don't know. That's just how I looked at business from an early age. And I'm realizing, you can still maintain that, but there definitely needs to be boundaries. There needs to be times when, you're not going to drive yourself crazy or lose money because of what a customer wants, and that's okay. Again, I love the Ritz-Carlton approach. I love just going above and beyond and using any problem as just a way to actually wow. It's like a extended bonus, and people talk about it. I love doing this when I was running a moving company. But one of the things that I run into now, a lot of times our clients, they're higher dollar monthly retainers. So that relationship has been built through in-person meetings, a lot of phone calls, lunches together, and you develop that friendship. There's a level of trust there and everything else. The downside about that is, in a way, you make yourself completely accessible to that client anytime you want. And I've had to really, one of the things our mastermind has been helping me with is setting those expectations from the start of, hey, we can talk during these hours. You can send me emails. I'll get back to you during this time. But for a while, I was answering calls on the weekends. It'd be 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And, I'd be out with my girlfriend and taking calls and stuff. And that's not okay, because it gets to the point where, one, that's not scalable. Two, it's just really, really going to affect your mental and psyche, kind of like what you were talking about, Trevor, at 2 a.m. in the morning, but it's a phone call. And then three, it sets you up for failure. You're almost training your clients to expect that type of service, and it's unrealistic. So one of the things that I'm doing now is going forth is really just helping set those expectations from the start of the relationship. So when we bring on a new client, explaining to them, hey, this is what communication with us looks like. Anytime you have questions, you can do this and this and this, and typically we'll get back to you in this time frame. So I'm really excited about that. Already have done it with a few new clients, but it's something that, learn from my mistakes. If you're working in an atmosphere where your clients, it's that one-on-one relationship, they have your phone number or they have your personal email, just be sure to set those expectations. You don't have to call them boundaries, just expectations. So.
Yeah, and I think what would help also from the get-go, this is something that I sort of failed at, and I wish I could go back and I'm gonna have to go back and fix it. Again, I have another sticky note to do this, is to change, to have an email address where specifically assigned to your customer support. So that you have your sort of broad, sort of catch-all email account, which is for, let's say, non-customers and just people sort of asking random questions about whatever it is that you do, maybe fielding kind of like a sales sort of Facebook email address. And that's also probably a good idea to have too, break it down into sales and support, but separate your email addresses, because then it makes it future-proof and you can scale it. You can assign that to you can manage it, use different rules around, what happens with this email address versus this email address account. That's something I've failed at miserably. And now
me too.
Yeah, I have emails coming in to, I think, 3 or 4 different email accounts they could be asking me any number of questions with respect to, whatever it is they want to know, as well as spam, just junk coming in because I've, used that email address to sign up for services and stuff like that. So there's no boundary, there's no clear purpose for that email address. So if there's one thing that you can take from this rambling that I've been doing is make sure that each email address has a specific purpose, and then just tailor that email address to its purpose. Once you've aligned the purpose in your mind for the email address, you're going to use it that way. So I wish I'd done that from the start. That's something that could really help your customer service effort. So,
great tip.
I've done some looking up some research on Zendesk, and you are right.
What'd you find?
$1 per month if it's billed annually. So you have to pay 12 whole dollars up front. It's for one agent. If you're doing a month to month, then it's $2 per month. That gives you access to email ticketing, which is essentially what I was talking about. You can create tickets and probably track them and stuff. It gives you access to creating your own knowledge base, which is like an FAQ page for your own product. Plus, they say you can choose from a whole bunch of different apps that sort of connect with Zendesk and stuff. You know, for $1 a month. I think that's great value. I think that's
super great value.
Super great.
I mean, the knowledge base alone, it's statistically, like when you look at what happens to sales when you add FAQs and common questions on your site, like it's amazing. So having that knowledge base would be a value itself. Let me ask you this. This is a little bit off topic, but I think it's relevant because of how you mentioned their pricing. So $1 billed annually or, you know, $2 per month. Obviously, great deal either way. But I started doing this because I would always, you know, I go for the annual discount or whatever, but then I wouldn't really like whatever it was, you know, or I wouldn't use it. I'd find that it wasn't really doing my thing. So I've started doing where I subscribe for the first month, test drive it, and then if I like it, I just upgrade to the year. What do you do? Typically month to month or?
Yeah, it's true. I don't usually, like in the case of Zendesk, $12 that's even less than what I usually pay per month for any sort of service that I plug into my business. Yeah. For that one, I do the annual. But if you look at their next plan up, it's $25 a month if you're doing annually, or $29 month to month. So 25 by 12 is something like what, 250 plus 50 is $300. Did I do that right? Anyway. It's not math class time. So for $300, yeah, that's a big chunk of change right up front. So yes, I think I would do exactly what you said. I would do the first month to try it out. What I've done recently with another product that's $80 a month, or $400 a year or something like that. So it's a significant discount. I reached out to them and said, you know, is there any way I can try it out and do exactly what you said? And he agreed to let me try it for 2 months, paying $80 a month, and then after the 2 months, if I wanted to, I could upgrade to the unlimited or the annual plan, and he would apply the $160 I paid as credit towards that upgrade. So in other words, I would be getting it for the yearly price, and I get to try it out.
I gotta throw in a tax tip because we're going to talk a little bit about taxes, but this is a great example. If it's towards the end of the year, so we're about to enter the fourth quarter. Look at the services you're using, and if you have a lot of money on the books, purchase that upgrade for the next year or the next 2 years or something, because then, you know, that's some of the expense. You can write that you can write it off, and you're getting the service, which is going to help your cash flow for the next years. So we won't dive into that, but you see what I'm saying, Trevor?
Absolutely. But the thing is, though, it's important to note, you know, writing it off as an expense only works if you have income, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. So if you're showing, you know, a lot of profit, you can go through and, you know, if that's something you want to do, because it's going to help your cash flow, which helps the valuation of your business the next year's. I'm not a tax expert, but I know I've had a lot of accountants recommend that I, you know, do that. So passing along the tip.
Yeah. And I wonder, another quick question, because my dad sort of has an accounting background. I talk about this all the time, but if I'm writing off something as an expense, and if I don't have income to write it off against, could I carry that forward to the next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
you can do that.
There you go.
Yeah. There's so much. We should get a real tax person on this show to talk taxes. That's what we need to do.
That would be interesting. Do you know anyone?
I know John Lee Dumas has I think it's like CPA on Fire or something.
Yeah,
a guy that he's talked about. I can reach out to the author of this book that I just read. I think, you know, he would be a great interview for us. But let's find somebody. I'll put that in my notes.
That would be fun. Then, exactly. Then we have someone who really is an expert who would hopefully be able to answer questions like these. And for our Canadian listeners, it'd be nice to have someone who knows more than just U.S. tax law. So, very good. Now,
okay, back to customer service.
I wanted to talk about. I have two stories. I'll start the first one, then we can, you know, flip-flop back to Carter. But I'll start with sort of a positive customer service interaction I had with Lead Pages. Lead Pages whenever you log in, so not whenever, but sometimes when you've logged into Lead Pages, you'll get like a message on the right-hand side of the screen that'll sort of give you some sort of an update as to the goings on of the company, whether that's an update to the Lead Pages app, telling you about new features, or maybe a promotion, pay X number of dollars for a 2-year membership, which is an X number of % off the discount. Anyway, marketing messages, sales messages, customer service related messages in terms of, what's going on with the app, upgrades, et cetera, et cetera. And I never really paid much attention to it until yesterday. There was a problem with one of my Lead Pages. It wasn't loading correctly. I was getting a server error when it was trying to load. And I don't know if this was probably just a coincidence. But what happened was I got a message that popped up from Lead Pages from someone saying, "Hey, Trevor, just wanted to let you know we're experiencing issues with our connectivity to the Google App Drive," or whatever it's called, that Google has or App Engine, I think it's called. And that is affecting some of our Lead Pages in this manner. And they explained the manner in which it was affecting it. And they said, don't worry, we're working on it. We'll have it up and fixed as soon as possible. And the way they said what was broken, they actually didn't include what was not working for me. They alluded to it in such a way that most likely the thing that was broken for me should not have been broken. And then I was like, well, crap. Like, I see that, okay, that's cool. There's a problem, so it's probably related to my problem. It's probably okay. But they didn't say that it was going to be okay. And I really wanted to reach out to them and say, are you sure? Like, this is broken. Should I worry? And then I noticed in this message, there was a chat box at the bottom. And I was like, oh. So I just clicked on the chat box and I said, hey, and I noticed that there was from a name. It said Charlene or something like that. And I was like, hey, Charlene, the problem I'm having right now is that I'm getting this error for this page when I'm doing this. And from what you said, it doesn't sound like these are related. Can you follow up on that with me? And I just made some money. That's funny. And it's, life of the passive income entrepreneur. So I said that, and then she got back to me and she said, oh, don't worry, if it was, broken for that reason, it's going to be back up again. We just solved the issue. Give it a refresh and try it out. Sure enough, I refreshed the page and everything was okay. So just like you said, there's a couple things going on there. There's the fact that, well, they reached out to me and said, okay, there's a problem. I'm admitting it, and, bear with me. But that message came to me not through an email, which I probably would have ignored. It was right in the app when I was using the app. So it was very well timed, and it was very well positioned for me in such a way that it didn't feel intrusive and it actually felt helpful. And then she explained the problem, blah, 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 fine, that's whatever. And then I was able to interact with her and ask questions and get a response from her. So I was like, my mind was blown by this interaction. And then I realized what they were using was something called Intercom. And Intercom is a product that I was already well aware of, and I just sort of never really gave it much thought because I was like, whatever. It's just yet another one of those products that are trying to be rammed down my throat. But after this interaction, I realized, holy cow, this really is very powerful. There's a lot of practical applications to this from a marketing standpoint in terms of getting leads or converting leads into customers. Okay, because it's essentially a live chat widget, as well as customer service, as well as, like all these things that I've already said. So there's a lot of different hats that this software wears. And it really, like I said, it was awesome. So it's intercom.io. Intercom spelled like, you would speak into an intercom when you're trying to get into someone's apartment and you're buzzing up or something. From what it looks like, it starts at about $49 a month. And I think it essentially allows you to do everything that I just talked about for $49 a month. I don't want to get into all the pricing and packages and everything. You can check it out yourself if you like. www.intercom.io. Definitely a cool product.
And I think you hit on something really, really powerful there that I don't think a lot of people realize how valuable that is, and that's taking ownership of the problem. Like, I am still so amazed when you see businesses, whether it's, reading their Yelp reviews or reviews online, and like it's, the business owner's response, or you just reach out personally and say, hey, I'm having problems with this. and they immediately go on the defensive side, and immediately it's like, well, you're doing something wrong, or you know what I mean? Like, we would have done that had you said blah, blah, blah. And you can outmaneuver probably a third of businesses out there if you simply, anything that a customer brings towards you, address it from the angle that, hey, it's your problem. It's our problem as the business, even if it's not. Because if it's not, then what I tend to think that I'm getting really like going down the rabbit hole here, but if it's not really your fault, but the customer thinks it is, then it's basically a communication issue or an expectation issue, something like that. Am I making sense there?
I think so, but what's the point you're driving at?
Well, basically take ownership of the problem, regardless of what it is. Approach the situation. Don't don't be on your heels playing defense when you talk to these people. Be proactive. Find, even if it's not really a problem, even if they're just not looking at a certain part of the app that they need to click on, or the message that they were supposed to receive landed in spam. Like, just take ownership and be like, oh, we've heard that occasionally our emails land in spam boxes. I really apologize for the inconvenience. Check your spam box. If not, I'll be happy to resend that email. Something like that. That's just a small advantage, or a small example. I'll give you an example.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna give you just an example when I was traveling recently. When I was in Ireland, and my friends and I, we were at a very, very nice restaurant. Someone was taking us out to dinner, fantastic dinner, expensive dinner, really, really fantastic. And we're eating dessert, about to go, and the manager comes over, and we're getting the bill, and she's like, just wanted to let you know that our credit card machine went down and you're going to have to pay with cash. And it's like, immediately, like, the bill is close to, I want to say, like €400 or something like that.
Ooh,
and so here's the thing. And I've told this story to a couple of people, and I totally get, it's not the manager's fault. It's not the business's fault. It was, the internet company, or whatever, the credit card processing, or the weather disrupted it. So it's no one's fault. But the way that the manager went about approaching the situation, she made the problem the customer's, ours. Yeah. So versus like saying like, hey, our credit card processing is offline. Can I bring you guys some coffee or something, and hopefully we can get it back up? Or saying, I know this is an inconvenience. Can I take some money off your bill, and I'd be happy to show you where the ATM is, which was right outside the restaurant, had she pointed that out. Or she could have said something like, do you know what hotel you're staying in? I'd be happy to drop off an invoice. Tons of ways that she could approach that situation, versus immediately saying, hey,
give me cash.
Our problem is your problem now. Yeah. And so it's just that mindset, whatever it is. It wasn't her doing. It wasn't the restaurant's fault. But she could have taken ownership of the problem, and instead I would have been telling you about an amazing experience that could have been a disaster that turned into something awesome. So just another custom example.
That's really good. I really like that example. Another one I've had recently was with my internet service provider. My internet went down. I called in, and I mean, there's a lot of things that the person representing the company does not know about the customer. Like, they don't know how I'm feeling at that moment. They don't know who I am. They don't know my background. There's so much they don't know. And what happens with me is, and I'm sure with you guys listening, I'm very well versed with computers. I have lived in front of a computer and put more hours into computers and operating systems and programming than I'm sure all of us have, than the vast majority of the population on planet Earth. Okay. So when I call into a customer service line with a technical problem, typically speaking, the problem is actually a real problem that needs to be fixed in some sort of interesting way, not interesting way, but not a common way. Let's put it that way. So I call into the internet guys. I say, hey, my internet's down. It's not working. and they have to go, they pull you through all those annoying things. Have you restarted your modem? Yes. Have you tried plugging your computer directly into the modem and bypassing your router? Yes. Have you tried restarting this? Yes. You restart your computer? Yes. Have you tried booting it up in this mode? Yes. Have you tried doing it? And the guy was like, one of the things that I was saying, I was having troubles accessing sort of one website in particular that was really causing me issues. That was causing me pains, was to log into my bank account. And it wasn't working. He was like, oh, it's probably your bank's website's down. And it's like, dude, that's not the bank's website. Like, my internet is like, listen to me. But he doesn't know that I'm such an expert, so I can understand it. So the point of this conversation that I'm having with you right now is they don't know your background and you don't know their background either. So it's a two-way street there. Another example from when I'm the company and I'm dealing with one of my customers is my customer says, I've received, you've sent me 3 emails of 5. You sent me, like, let's say lessons 1, 2, 3, and 5, and I didn't receive lesson number 4. Typically speaking, from my end, from the company's perspective, it's usually they either deleted the email and didn't realize it came in, or it went to the spam folder, like you said. So from my end as a company, I usually respond, check your spam folder, because 90% of the time, that's what it is. But in this case, this guy was a very highly technical, exactly the same situation, and he sort of got angry at me, and he was like, "Dude, of course I checked my bloody spam folder, you idiot! Like, you didn't say that, but he did say that, right?" Then I felt like the idiot, and I was like, "Oh, of course, like there are other people like that out there who have." Who check their spam folder automatically. So the point of the story is, in either perspective, try to be, if you could be, as detailed as you can with your response to your customer. So from now on, I'm not going to say check your spam folder. I'm going to say, look, typically speaking, 90% of the cases that I have received, because I receive these on many occasions all the time, it goes to your spam folder. But if this is one of the 10% of the cases, I'd be happy to do one of these 3 things to help fix it. Could you just confirm for me if it's in your spam folder or not? Right? And that's it. That's you're addressing the fact that the typical problem and the typical solution, and then you're saying, for those who are atypical, this is how we're going to solve your problem. So there you go. That's the moral of that long story for you.
Yeah, I think too, looking at just the trend of generations, and this is getting a little philosophical, so I apologize in advance for the boredom, but I think you're going to see companies that really have those personal skills, those communication skills, the ability to address situations in a top tier customer service level, are really, really going to outperform even the good companies with solid products. Just because you look at, like, you're talking about macro trends, but everyone's so glued head down to their phone, not carrying on conversations, not conversing as well as what we used to. And I've read a lot of studies already talking about that. Just new workforce is a lot less prone to those communication, one-on-one, in-person communication. But I think that transitions over to in emails, on the phone, things like that. So learn customer service, learn how to talk to people, how to understand from their perspective. I always recommend, if this is something that interests you, study the greats, like Ritz-Carlton, fantastic. Zappos, fantastic. Amazon. Have you ever heard about Amazon's customer service? No, because it's fantastic. Like, that's how good it is. Call in with a problem to Amazon and see what happens. Like, boom, taken care of immediately.
Good.
I mean, there's not so many, but there's a handful of companies that have just absolute fantastic customer service that we can all learn from. And that's, Zappos, they didn't even, I think now they have a marketing budget, but I'm pretty sure at one point, every single marketing dollar that they had, they redirected into their call center for their customer support. So their call and email center, because their whole thing was, if they could wow their customers enough, that would generate enough word of mouth referrals that it would outperform any marketing campaign that they could. So pretty cool stuff.
And I believe it, because I also had I had a really frustrating one. Now, this is the last sort of story I have canned or in the can ready to go for this episode. And I mean, it had a happy resolution sort of in the end. But I would not say that this was a positive experience by any means. It's with Infusionsoft, and I told the Infusionsoft guy that I would spread the good word about Infusionsoft. And like I said, we did come to a resolution, and I am satisfied with it, and I'm going to continue to be an Infusionsoft customer. So in that respect, I'm happy. But the way I had to get there was very difficult. I had, the quick recap of the issue was they force you to pay a fee to do training with their program, right, with their application. Mm-hmm. When I sat down to do the training, I already knew everything that was sort of in the itinerary. The guy said, "This is what we're going to be learning about." I said, "I've already learned that. I've already implemented it. It's already working. It's going to be a waste of both our time to do this. Can I get some sort of other training? Can you, give me more advanced training?" He said, "Most likely." And then I never heard back from him. And then I had to follow up. And then he said, "Let me put you in touch with someone. You'll hear about, it in 24 hours. And I didn't hear anything. And I had to follow up. And then he said, "I'm so sorry, you'll hear from someone within 24 hours. And then I didn't hear anything. And then I had to follow up. At this point, already 2 months had passed. Just to put that into perspective, 2 months of, it's not a lot of work for me to send an email to follow up, but it's always in my mind that I've paid essentially $1,500 for something that I haven't received."
Yeah, I was going to say, had you, if you were paying at time of services rendered, like, probably wouldn't have been an issue. But the fact that you had tied up $1,500 and they're essentially for nothing like that, oh man,
it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable, and that is exactly what I heard from when I called them up to follow up. Now I called them and I said, "Look, I very rarely call in. I'm a little bit upset. Can you please figure?" And the guy on the phone was great. He was like, "Oh my God, that is absolutely unacceptable. I can't believe that you were put in this situation."
Took ownership of the problem.
Took ownership
right away.
Of the problem.
Look at that shit. I'm already happy about the situation.
It made me feel so great. Made me feel so great. I was like, "All right, thank you for acknowledging my frustration." So he said, "We absolutely can get that fixed up. I'll get someone on it, and you'll hear back from us in 24 hours." And then I said, "Hold on, I've heard this story before. Will I really hear back from someone within 24 hours? And he said, "Tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up out of my chair, walk over to the person's desk that this is assigned to, and get him to call you." And I said, "Fantastic." The guy wasn't there at his desk. So he said, "I'm really sorry he's not there. Try calling back at this hour if you don't hear back from us in 24 hours. I said, "Okay." Didn't hear back from them, had to follow up. This time I followed up through a chat widget, and I had heard, this is now, so that originally happened late March is when it started. I heard from this chat person, this was mid-July. So late March to mid-July. And now in mid-July, I have this person on the chat line with me saying, "Oh, the issue has been marked as closed. The ticket has been closed, and you're not getting anything." Essentially, it's what they said to me. And I said, "Okay, hold on a second. First of all, when was it closed?" And she said, June 28th. And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to check my email to follow up on that." Anyway, I had heard nothing. I didn't hear anything from them. Just that I had nothing. No follow-up, no, "I'm sorry, but we couldn't do that." Nothing. Just, "I'm finding out now because I followed up. It's closed." So now I had to get them on the phone, and I had to talk to the guy that closed it on he's part of the team or whatever that, whatever does this stuff. Anyway, so I finally spelled all of everything that I just said out into an email and said, these are the dates, these are the times, these are the names of the people I spoke to. I had to go into such, incredible detail. And I said, "This is how I felt. This is what I was asking for. This is what I was told. This is what I was promised. This is what, did not happen. This is how many times I had to follow up." And I just emptied everything into this email as politely as I could and said, "Look, this is I really feel like this is ridiculous." And finally, he said, "Okay, how about this? How about we give you a credit onto your account for the money, almost all the money that you paid for." He said, "Unfortunately, some of the money that you paid is actually not applied to training. It's applied to the setup fees for blah, blah, blah." I said, "Fine, just do it." And I end up, the end of the story is I get 4 months for free to use the Infusionsoft for the next 4 months. So good Lord, but it should not have been that difficult. Okay. So whatever you can do to make sure that you follow up with people, please do it. And that is where solutions like Zendesk come in. If you're just doing it through emails, like I think they were doing, stuff gets lost and it's just horrible. So yeah, long story short, use systems to make sure that you always follow up with your customers and obviously take responsibility for the issues that come up, even if they're, like Carter said, even if they're not your fault. The customer just wants to know that they're being heard. That's it. And that will go such a huge way towards making the customer happy. So that's the most important thing at the end of the day is how happy they are. So
happy customers.
Happy customers.
So
there you go.
I feel like we've gone over a lot. This was good stuff. Hopefully it was helpful for everyone listening. Should we dive into our app and book of the show? Oh
shoot, I forgot about that segment. We've been talking too long. Yes, absolutely, we should do that.
You know what? I think so. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend the app because it'll come in use. Hint, hint, in either one episode or two from here. But Meerkat. Have we mentioned Meerkat before?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, Meerkat, you may or may not have heard of it. There's two main services that offer live streaming, basically. So imagine like watching videos of people, but it's actually live. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff that you can look at and follow people while they're doing live segments. Recently, Mercedes-Benz had I think it was Mercedes, they had a live test driving. They showed the inside of their test driving and stuff. Cool. All this sort of cool stuff. But check out Meerkat app. It's going to be really, really big in terms of marketing and stuff here in the future. So that's the app. As far as books of the week, I was telling Trevor before we started the show, I was like, shoot, all my books are packed up because I'm in the process of moving. So I don't know. Do you have a good book? If not, I can rattle off one that's at the top of my list right now.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to just sort of rattle off a book if we haven't, if it's not top of mind and if it's not going to really.
This one's top of mind. It's the one I recommended. Yeah.
Yeah. So it might not have anything to do with customer service, but if it's a great book that you'd recommend that people read, then by all means, yeah.
Yeah. So same one I recommended to our mastermind group. It's called Tax-Free Wealth, part of the Rich Dad Poor Dad series. I can look up, or I tell you what, while I'm talking about it, can you look up the author real quick, Trevor?
Okay. Tax-Free Wealth?
Yeah. And I bought it. It was part of Amazon Prime Day sale, and I bought it, and I was kind of like, I wonder if this is going to be sleazy or if it's going to be kind of sketchy. Just because, I was always raised in the background, like if you're doing anything to reduce your taxes, then you're doing bad stuff. But the book was 100% not like that at all. It was one of the best books I've read ever around taxes. I felt like it gave me a really clear understanding of taxes and how they, flow and how the government's not out to get you. They actually write these tax laws to help you take advantages of different reductions in the amount of taxes and stuff you pay. Fantastic read all around. Super easy read. I think I read it just like in the evenings at night, got through it in 3 days. And if you're scared of like finance and tax books and that type of literature, this is just a great one to pick up. It's very easy to understand what they're communicating. I learned a ton of stuff that I wish I had known 5-6 years ago, that I could have applied every year into every business that I've been a part of, because there's just so much good stuff. So yeah, Tax-Free Wealth
by Tom Wheelwright.
Yep, that's it. So great book. It'd be awesome if we could get Tom on the show, but I imagine he's a pretty busy guy.
Yeah. He says he's a CPA, so he does have some the right credentials to be writing about taxes.
Oh yeah, and he runs.
He's currently listed number 1 in the taxation section for businesses and money, and then like number 2 in small business, and number 2 in accounting and bookkeeping, and it's like, it's a very well known, well liked book. So
he's
definitely cool.
Yeah, he's the real deal. So check it out. Check that book out. You'll learn a ton, and hopefully, we'll do a segment on taxes, bring in someone who really knows what they're talking about versus you and I just, I heard this once, and this book said this. So
Well, maybe I'll try and see if I can find that on my Kindle, because I've been looking for a book to read on my Kindle. Oh yeah, look, it's $7 on the Kindle. That's gonna be like a no-brainer. I'll get that. Maybe
It'll
I can.
probably save you 7 figures in the term of a lifetime if you implement a lot of the stuff. So
It's a good investment. So
yeah, that's a really good investment.
And then I can read it, and then maybe we can both rattle off back and forth about it if we can't get some big name to come onto our little podcast here. So there you go. All right. I think that'll be a wrap for this episode. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening through our customer service conversation back and forth. Hopefully, you got a lot to take away from that, and good tips and tricks. And obviously, we're also glad to hear that Carter is back on his feet and able to actually physically walk. So that's always good to know. So I guess until next week, ladies and gentlemen, who knows what we're going to be talking about, but you can always find all the goodies, all the show notes, all the recordings, and everything that we talk about via our website. You can go specifically to this episode, which was number 36, I think? Yes. At coderstartup.com/36. And yeah, check out the show notes and check out all the links to everything we just said. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. Also, don't forget to check out, you have, I think, as of the recording of this, you have 7 more days to sign up for this competition that we're having via unitedbusinessleaders.com to sign up for their email list. But I'm thinking that by the time this episode comes out, it will probably already be too late. So pretty much everything I'm saying is in vain. So if you're hearing this message and you haven't signed up, well then I'm sorry, you are too late to act. So hopefully we'll pick a winner and we will notify them via email on the day that we've assigned, which is I think the end of July. And then you'll hear about who won, I guess maybe mid October, August or so, when that episode will actually hit the shelves. So
yeah, we'll figure it out.
There you go. So yeah, check it out, unitedbusinessleaders.com and coderstartup.com/36. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves and happy learning. Bye for now.